Hello again, everyone. This is John, the unpublished author. Today we're going to continue with the 7 stories of Christmas. This one's entitled The Christmas Cardinal. Hope you enjoy it. Patrick came from a family that did not have much, which meant he did not like Christmas. Every year he would make a list to Santa, and every year he would be disappointed. However, he did have something to look forward to during that magical time of year. As the snowflakes gathered in their backyard, his dear mother would never forget the bird feeder which hung from the lowest branch of a tall oak. Patrick enjoyed watching the various birds fly in and from the north and perch on the feeder. Yet a certain bird filled his heart with joy and amusement. It was bright red in color, with a single crest upon the top of its head. Glee and wonder washed over the 8-year-old's boy's face as he gawked at the cardinal that visited the feeder on Christmas Eve. He would gather to the window sill and stare at its beauty. Patrick loved all birds, but his favorite was the cardinal. His mother once told him that the perennial gentle bird reminded her of his grandmother, always busy and full of life. His father wasn't much of a nature lover, and he didn't have the same affection toward any fowl, much less a stupid cardinal. He huffed at the mere sight of wildlife. One year Patrick's dad even set traps in the wooded area behind their house. He did it in a desperate attempt to stop the rabbits from eating the vegetables from their garden. Patrick waited until the poor innocent critters got caught in the live traps, and then he would set them free. One by one he released those beautiful creatures. As Patrick grew to be a teenager, he still would wait by the window for the resident cardinal to show his black chin. However, one Christmas Eve the lonesome redbird neglected to come to the feeder. Patrick thought to himself as his gaze was directed at the sunflower seeds that lay in the bottom of the feeder, yet the cardinal never arrived. He told his mother that the bird had gone missing. "Oh, you know birds, Patrick. They aren't always on time, and maybe tomorrow the cardinal will be there." Patrick lowered his head in disappointment. "Just be patient, dear," his mother explained. The following morning Patrick stammered down from his bedroom and went quick as a whistle to see if his feathered friend was indeed there. He cupped his hands to his face to try to get a better glance. "Where are you?" he said to himself. The feeder was being used. Nuthatches, wrens, and a solitary sparrow munched on the tasty seeds. There was no cardinal, though. Perturbed, Patrick slinked to the old tree that harbored the gifts underneath its boughs. Father had the duty of passing the presents. "Here you go, kiddo. That's from Mom and me," his dad exclaimed. Ripping the paper in a messy frenzy, Patrick paused when he could see what it was. "Thanks," he told his folks as he held up a tarnished and tattered sweater. "Let me guess, thrift store discount?" His father was out of work and had been for quite some time. He could only afford so much. Being a teenager, Patrick did not enjoy another worn article of clothing. After the gift-giving tradition had ended, the boy rushed to see if the cardinal had returned yet. It had not, though, and the absence of the bright red-winged animal sent Patrick to his room. He wanted nothing more than to see the cardinal. His heart had been broken that Christmas. It was getting to be bedtime in the Mueller household, and while Patrick lay his head, he stared out the frosty glass as he pondered the cardinal's whereabouts. "Why didn't you come this year?" he asked the blowing snow that passed by outside. The morning sun broke through and awoken the boy. His head hung lower than usual as he walked into the kitchen. His mother stood over the hot stove, flipping pancakes and scrambling eggs. "Still no cardinal, sweetie?" She could tell right away that her son was depressed. "Nope, and I'm not that hungry today." "Cheer up. Didn't you have a good Christmas this year, Patrick?" By the time she looked back, back. Patrick had migrated to the living room. Surfing through the channels, the boy came upon a documentary. He was more than intrigued. As the narrator spoke of exotic pet birds, he hung on every word. That's how he found out about the flyers that people would tack to telephone poles if they ever lost their parrot. A stroke of brilliance crossed Patrick's weary mind. If I could use one of my pictures of the cardinal, then perhaps make a flyer. Surely I will find him. After his dad returned from a tough day searching for his new job, Patrick begged him to take him to the copy store on the circle. Why? His father asked. Can we go, please? I have to. Patrick knew that his father would think his boy was crazy for making up flyers to find a wild bird, but he still continued to ask. Get your coat on, boy. It's mighty cold. The father-son duo marched through the local copy store. The wind bore down as the snow fell in clumps. Upon arrival, Patrick stepped near to the clerk standing behind the desk. He then reached deep into his pocket and retrieved a photograph. Meanwhile, his father browsed the printing machines. Sir, can you make 20 copies of this with the words, "Have you seen me?" Clerk took one look at the bird in the picture and giggled. Young man, you realize they are quite common. Are you sure you want this? Patrick nodded his head and left the clerk to do his copying. 15 minutes later, Patrick had shiny new flyers in hand. Okay, son, what are those for? The boy's dad asked. Patrick replied with a wink and a smile. The cardinal has to be in town, Dad. The remainder of the afternoon was spent tacking the numerous photos to corkboards and telephone poles. Have you seen me? If you know where he is, please contact this number. The stark black ink toward the bottom of the glossy sheet was in bold lettering. You ready to go back? Patrick's father did not approve of his son's actions. Nevertheless, he allowed for it. Together for the first time in months, the two chatted about many concerns his dad had about Patrick. So what do you want to be when you grow up? Patrick thought hard and long and then responded, a friend of nature. His father chuckled, and before he could properly reply, they pulled in their driveway. Honey, we're home. Did you get what you needed to get done, darling? Patrick's mother questioned. Patrick reiterated the day's events as he set the table for dinner. He also concluded that he would find the missing bird sooner than later. After the dishes were washed, the family settled in by the glowing fire. Patrick lay on the floor closest to the flame, daydreaming about the cardinal the entire time. 2 days passed without any calls concerning the bird. Patrick's idea had failed. That did not deter the young lad from pursuing his red friend. Mom, I'm going for a walk. Be back later, he yelled to his mother. Patrick squeezed into his winter boots and set out in search for the cardinal. Midway to the circle, he thought he saw it. He ran full speed toward the mystery bird. Once he got a good look, his eyes came down. It was a red bird, a finch, not a cardinal. He went to turn around and bumped into a woman. Are you lost, wee one? The woman's rich Irish accent made her seem kind. No, I'm looking for my bird. Oh, now what kind of bird is it? Patrick explained to the woman in white that the bird was red in color, black-chinned, and had a crest atop his noggin. Are you speaking of a cardinal, wee one? Patrick was excited to hear the stranger tell him of the cardinal she had just seen down the block. Thank you. Before the boy took off, the lady stopped him by snatching his sleeve. What's the rush, laddie? Do you have a name? Patrick. She introduced herself as Leona. Leona was headed to the coffee shop. She invited the boy in for some hot cocoa. Sitting across from one another, the two talked. Leona couldn't help but notice the clothes and boots that was Patrick's outfit. Aren't you cold? When was the last time your parents bought you a coat? Patrick replied, This is my most recent coat. My dad doesn't work, and my mom, well, she collects from the government. We can't afford anything. I see. Are you happy with what you do have, though? Leona grilled Patrick for 10 minutes, attempting to gauge his joy. I suppose. All the kids at school tease me a lot. They wear name brand clothes. Leona leaned in close to Patrick and whispered in his ear, "The clothes don't make the man." Patrick noticed her diamond rings, her pearls hung from her thin neck, and her high-priced shoes. "You have nice things," he spoke. "Aye, but this doesn't make me me. You should be grateful for what you do have." I didn't always come this dressed up." Leona paused and then sighed. "There was a time not so long ago where I didn't even have a place to rest my head." Patrick listened to her life stories, the ups, the downs, and the in-betweens. When she stopped her story, Patrick was astounded, for he thought that he was alone when it came to being poor. Life's not about the things you have, but the people in it. Leona then retrieved her wallet, leaving a $10 bill for the barista. As the two stepped onto the curb, Leona looked over her shoulder at Patrick and wished him luck in the quest to find the bird. "Remember, laddie, be thankful for everything that you have today, because there may not be tomorrow." She then vanished behind this blanket of snow. Patrick scoured this whole circle with no luck, and then he thought that the local park is full of animals. He trekked toward the park hoping to find that little bird. Upon arrival, he first went into the nature center. There within the huge space were numerous exhibits on display. A rat snake curled around a piece of wood, a tortoise slowly walked in an enclosure, and a swift lizard tried to hide under his turf. The boy went to the information desk. "Pardon me, but have you seen this bird?" Patrick handed the tall man the photograph. "Yes, they are pretty common around these parts. Why?" The slender man replied, "I know they're common, but you have seen this one. See the scar below its right eye? That's what makes it unique." Patrick told the ranger, "I see. I may have to be honest, I never paid that much attention. A cardinal is a cardinal." The teenage boy slumped over in despair. He began to think that his cardinal was never going to be found. "Thank you, mister." Patrick retreated to the parking lot. He sat on a lonely stump and thought more about where to look next. He noticed a trail going in the thick forest. The afternoon sun glistened on the path that winded before him. He stopped at every oak tree to investigate. There were white, red, and pin oaks that towered over his tiny figure. The snow crunched with every step he took. He soon came upon a great big chestnut oak. His glazed eyes looked up the thick trunk and to the tip-top of the old tree. "Are you up there?" he whispered. Another hiker was coming from the opposite direction. The woman in her drab clothes said hi as she came upon Patrick. "Hey, ain't you the Mueller boy?" the stranger inquired. "Yeah, do I know you?" Patrick responded. "We go to the same church. Wendy. It's nice to meet you, Wendy." She could tell that something was amiss by the boy's melancholy face. She asked Patrick what was the matter. Patrick told Wendy of his conundrum. She then invited him to sit with her on a park bench. She explained to the teenager that the season is not about our wants or things we miss, but about the people we have in our lives. Patrick listened to Wendy and reiterated to her just how much the cardinal meant to him. "I hope you find it. Remember, though, we should love the people and things we already have. Don't forget it." She then went on her merry way. Meanwhile, back at the Mueller place, Patrick's mom was starting to get worried about her son. She hadn't seen him for hours. Poor fellow, all he wants is that bird to show its face. She thought about the way his face lit up when he saw his cardinal at the feeder. She had a sudden revelation cross her mind. "I know, Jerry is great at making things out of scrap." His mother raced to the phone. "Hello, Jerry. I was curious if After speaking with Jerry, she smiled big. Patrick's mother was elated to hear that the craftsman agreed to make Patrick a shiny tin cardinal. Where else can I look? The boy meandered forward until he came into a small pond on the outskirts of town. He checked the briar bush, sumacs, and every loose log in a desperate attempt to sequester the bird. There still was no sign of it. He almost gave up when his eyes caught what seemed to be a fleeting burst of red plumage from across the water. Is that you? Patrick rushed to the opposite bank. Hey, come back here, he yelled at the cardinal. He was more than elated to see the creature. There was only one thing Patrick had to check to see if it was indeed his friend. Lonesome Bird came to rest on a broken limb that swung with the breeze. Patrick homed in on the cardinal, taking his sweet time in observing the red bird. For if it was his cardinal, it would have a scar just below its right eye. However, before Patrick could get a good look at it, something startled the bird, and it flew to the east. Well, howdy there. The big belly of a man protruded from a low birch. Dang it, Patrick exclaimed. What in Sam Hill is a boy doing out here by himself? The man with a 10-gallon hat and a satchel asked Patrick. I almost had it. Patrick's voice was low as he mumbled. Had what? Y'all know this is private property, right? Sorry, I'll leave. Now just wait a gosh darn minute. You look colder than the geezer with his fly open. Follow me, y'all can cozy up inside. I have to go home, sir. Patrick's eyes never left the ground. Well then, let me give you a ride. Name's Jim. Friends call me Jimbo. And you are? My name's Patrick. The stranger with a deep southern voice helped the boy into his truck. They chatted the entire time, until Patrick instructed the man to hang a left at the light. So you really like that bird, huh? That's pretty neat if you ask me. I've never met anybody who would do so much searching for a critter. Most folk would have given up and just said, the heck with it. You're an inspiration, young man. As the truck swung into Patrick's driveway, the boy thanked the man. Don't forget what I told you, and have a Merry Christmas. The advice the stranger had given Patrick floated about his tiny head. Try to forget about it. There's a lot more to life than a bird. Yeah, thanks, Patrick said sarcastically to himself. Mom, I'm home. He screeched the slamming door behind him. Oh, thank God you had me scared, his mother explained. Patrick told his parents all about his day and how he met some good people, but he still could not find the cardinal. Stay right there, I have a surprise, his mother said. She dashed into her bedroom and came back out, holding a wrapped gift. Patrick thought he had opened all his gifts the day before. Who's it from? Patrick inquired. That doesn't matter, go on and open it. The boy carefully removed the paper. As he did, a red wire wing shone through. He held the recycled metal in his palm. Thanks, but it's just not the same. Patrick placed the metal figurine on the fireplace mantel and went to his room. He wept a little, thinking of the cardinal that had missed Christmas Eve. He lay in his bed, sullen and sad. He had wished all day that he would see his red bird. Just as his eyes shut, his mother began to holler, Patrick, Patrick, come down and see. The teenage boy sped toward his mom's echoing voice. She was standing near the picture window, pointing at something outside. Patrick crept closer and closer until, that's him, that's really him. His mother embraced her child, as she too was excited to see the cardinal at the feeder. See, I told you, you just had to wait a bit. Patrick's face glowed with joy, for he had finally been reunited with his cardinal. He stared at the ceiling and thanked God for all the blessings in his life. He too thanked his parents for being great. The tiny red bird was his hope and gleeful bliss. However, he now realized what really matters in life. Family and clothes on his back became his most gracious gift. The material world of which his classmates spent so much time chasing wasn't what Patrick needed. Life is bountiful and full of joy and bliss if you just know where to look. As for the cardinal, it still comes by as feeder on Christmas Eve, and the tin figure has not left the Mueller's mantle. For it remains a reminder that no matter who you are, there is nothing better than the gifts that God has for His children. It took a bird for Patrick to realize that. What will it take you? Merry Christmas.